to remain in the courthouse while arrangements were made. Mom clutched her poverty journal, adding notes about judicial overreach. Mrs. Chen apologized quietly. These kids just pulled off something pretty clever, documenting everything while pretending to play along perfectly. Makes me wonder how many other children in similar situations are keeping secret records right now, waiting for someone to actually listen. She'd been overwhelmed, trying to balance too many cases and competing interests. She'd wanted to believe the placements were working because the alternatives seemed worse. She promised to do better. Catherine arrived within an hour. She'd been waiting nearby, hoping but not assuming. The judge interviewed her thoroughly, reviewing her previous actions and current situation. She'd maintained her foster license, prepared her home, and arranged support systems. The paperwork took hours. Emergency placement required extra scrutiny given the failed placements. But by evening, we were leaving with Catherine. This time, the judge made it clear the placement would be protected from interference. Our parents watched us leave from the courthouse steps. Dad called out reminders about staying strong and prepared. Mom held up her journal, promising to document everything for our return. Their lawyer was already planning the appeal. But we were driving away with Catherine, back to the house that smelled like bread and safety. My sister fell asleep clutching both her bears. My brother stared out the window, finally allowing his shoulders to relax. I sat in the front seat, watching Catherine navigate traffic with steady hands. We still had battles ahead, court dates and therapy sessions, and the long work of healing. Our parents wouldn't give up easily, and the system that had failed us once might fail again. But for now, we were going home. Not to practice poverty or perform resilience, but to simply be children who were fed and warm and loved. Catherine made cocoa when we arrived, real cocoa with marshmallows. We sat at her kitchen table, the same one where we'd first learned food could be freely given. She didn't make us talk about what came next. She just refilled our cups when they emptied and let us exist without conditions. That night, we slept in real beds with warm blankets and full stomachs. No schedules on the wall, no locked pantries, no punishment charts. Just 3 kids who'd survived by documenting truth and finding someone who'd listen. The war wasn't over, but this battle was won. The morning after our return to Catherine's house, I woke to find my brother already at the kitchen table, his notebook open beside a bowl of cereal. He'd been awake for hours, drawing diagrams of something I couldn't quite make out. Catherine moved around the kitchen quietly, giving him space while keeping an eye on both of us. My sister emerged from her room dragging both stuffed animals, her hair a wild tangle. Catherine helped her into a chair and set down toast with jam. Real strawberry jam with seeds and everything. My sister stared at it like it might disappear, then took a tiny bite and smiled. Mrs. Chen called during breakfast. Catherine took the phone into the hallway, but we could hear her firm responses through the door. When she returned, her jaw was set in a way I was beginning to recognize. She explained that our parents had already filed an emergency appeal, claiming religious discrimination and parental alienation. The judge had given them 72 hours to present their case. My brother pushed his cereal away and showed us his diagrams. He'd been mapping out our parents' patterns, their escalation tactics, their manipulation strategies. He pointed to specific dates and incidents, showing how they'd refined their approach after each setback. Catherine studied the papers carefully, then made a phone call to someone she identified only as a friend who understood these situations. That afternoon, a woman arrived at the house. She introduced herself as Dr. Sarah Winters, a psychologist who specialized in coercive control and family dynamics. She didn't interview us formally, just sat in the living room and let us talk when we felt ready. My sister showed her the stuffed elephant Catherine had given her, explaining how she'd hidden it from the Millers because soft toys were considered weakness. Dr. Winters took notes in a small notebook, her face carefully neutral. She asked my brother about his documentation habits, and he showed her everything, even the pieces he'd hidden from us. Photos of bruises from sleeping on concrete, records of weight loss during extended fasting, temperature logs from cold exposure days. She photographed each page with professional equipment, creating an official record. The next morning, our parents appeared at the end of Catherine's street in their practice car. They didn't approach the house, just sat there watching. Catherine called the police, who explained that without a restraining order, our parents could park on a public street. They weren't technically doing anything wrong. My brother set up a camera in the front window, documenting their presence. Every hour, he'd check and log their activities. Mom sat in the passenger seat writing in her journal. Dad worked on his laptop, occasionally getting out to stretch and stare at the house. They stayed until dark, then returned at dawn. Catherine kept us busy inside. She taught my sister to bake cookies, real ones with chocolate chips and butter. My brother learned to use her computer for legitimate research, finding studies about the long-term effects of childhood deprivation. I helped prepare documentation for the upcoming hearing, organizing everything into clear categories. On the second day, more cars appeared. Other families from our parents' support group taking shifts watching the house. They held signs about parental rights and religious freedom. Neighbors